Hey, what's going on, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of Movies Good, Internet Bad, a celebration of the cinema, uploaded right here to the place that hates it the most. I'm Corey, that's Shane. The Last of Us Part 2 trailer came out today, and we were just giddy like school children. We don't usually talk about trailers on this channel, but damn it, we're going to do it. Shane, how are you, sir?
I'm great. I am so excited for this season of the show. I'm a big fan of the games, both of them. The second game is a little controversial, so we'll get into that a little bit.
So I've heard.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess where we should start is so you have not played the game. I have played the game.
I played the first one, but not the second one.
Correct. Yeah, I have not, or I have played the second game. You have not played the second game.
Yep.
I am a huge fan of the second game, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on the trailer first because I have a whole list of notes of things I noticed and stuff like that, but you have not played the game, so that's going to be useless for you. But from an outside observer, like, what's the vibe you're getting? What are the feelings you're getting when watching this?
I have a feeling that there are a lot of people that are not having a good time. Is that
About
a
right.
good way of putting it?
Yeah, that's about right.
I mean, the trailer opens up where Joel is in what appears to be a therapy session,
Yeah.
and he's not very good at sharing his emotions. And then at the end of the trailer, there's a single tear that rolls down his eye. I'm thinking a little bit of a time jump as well. I don't know if that's from the game or not, but it probably is just to account for some of the younger actors aging up a little bit, particularly Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie. Seems like the relationship between the two of them is a little bit strained of sorts. And aside from that, a bunch of new faces that I have not met yet. I love seeing Jeffrey Wright show up and stuff. I think he's terrific. Catherine O'Hara, who's also outstanding, is in there. A couple other new folks that I'm sure you'll dive into in a minute. But overall, from like a production standpoint, holy shit! Like it looks so good. The scope and the scale. Some of those wide shots with the mountains, with all the snow and everything. It's like, man, how is this an HBO show? But I'm sure it will come in at a budget lower than most of the other streaming shows that are out there. Cough, cough, Disney, cough, cough. But yeah, man, I love the first season. I thought it was terrific. I even bought the 4K disc of the first season.
I have it too.
Because I loved it so much. So I absolutely cannot wait. The wait for this. It's only been like a year and 8 months, I think, since the first season came out, but it feels like it's been forever. And I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So I don't want to get too far into spoilers because I think a lot of people who liked the show have not played the games at all.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people were shocked by the ending of season 1, which that was like my red wedding a little bit, where it's like, all the Game of Thrones book readers who are watching Game of Thrones, they were just waiting for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there with like all of my friends who had not played the game. And I'm like, you guys are not ready for this.
Yeah, man.
And then of course, the ending is pretty intense. But season 2, or I guess game 2, the way I would describe it is, whereas the first one is a very dark story with a lot of hope in it, the second game is more of a descent into madness. And it is extremely bleak, very, very bleak. Okay. And I don't want to go too far into exactly what makes it bleak, but it is a very depressing story and it's hard to get through. And so when I compare the two games, I think the second one as a game is much more advanced and mature. They fixed a lot of the mechanics of, in the first game, there were a lot of repeated platforming elements, one of which was Ellie couldn't swim, so you had to move these pallets.
Yes,
do you remember this?
That.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They kind of ditched that in the second game.
That's good.
And the shooting and the AI is much better in the second game. But the story is so dark that it is difficult to play it multiple times. Whereas the first one, I've played that game probably 4 times through. The second one I've played once, and I've dabbled in it a couple of other times.
Isn't it like 40 hours worth?
It's very long too. Yeah, and so that's what I was going to get into. It's about double the length of the first game, and it's structured in a way that, without spoiling it, there is a very much a first half of the game and a second half of the game. And what's interesting about this trailer is that there are scenes from what I would consider like the second half, latter part of the game in the trailer, which makes me think that they're approaching this game or the show structurally very different from the game, which I kind of thought they would, because the way that the game is structured, I don't think could work with a television series the way that it works in a game. And so actually there's a shot in this trailer, and I won't tell you which one it is, that is the very last scene of the second game.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a very impactful moment in the game.
Okay.
And so I like when I saw that, I was like, wow, okay, that means it's in this season. They're not waiting for, this is supposedly going to be split between seasons 2 and 3. So they're not waiting to show that scene in season 3. They're going to put it in season 2. And there must be a very good reason for that, because I know that Neil Druckmann is a huge fan of that scene specifically. And it is a very, very good scene. But when I saw that pop up, it made me think like, okay, this is going to be a departure from the game in terms of structure, which I'm actually on board with, because I don't think that it would work the way that it did in the game.
Okay.
Some other things, I don't know if this will be in the actual show, but the song Future Days that is playing throughout the trailer is heavily featured in the game. It is a very emotional beat for the game. So I was happy to hear it here. I don't know if they'll stick with it, but there is a lot of guitar playing in the trailer, so I think that they might play it. There's a lot of characters in here that are new, that didn't really appear in the first game. So you mentioned Jeffrey Wright. He plays Isaac, who's this like warlord type character.
Yeah, he looked quite a bit angrier than I'm used to seeing him.
There's this faction called the WLF, or as they call them, Wolves. WLF, Wolf. Yeah. And he is the leader of the WLF. So pretty intense character and he actually played the character in the game, so it was cool.
Oh, nice.
He voiced the character, so it was cool that he got casted, which they did with who was it in the first game? The leader of the Fireflies. They did the same thing where she was the voice actor in the.
I remember.
I forget her name for some reason.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about though.
But yeah, so it was the same actress from the game into the show. Catherine O'Hara's character, I do not believe was in the game. I think this is a new framing device, and this could lend itself to the structure of the season. I think that she might be in here as sort of a narrator type of character in order to perhaps tell this story out of order.
Yeah. Therapy scenes tend to lead themselves to flashbacks, right?
So. Yeah. And the way that it's structured in the game, there are flashbacks, but they are done through breaks in the game. So like you'll go through a big moment in the game, it'll cut to black, and then you'll have a flashback little chapter.
Okay.
I think in this, the structural device will be Catherine O'Hara, and they might be talking about something, and then it will go back and show that scene. And that's probably the way that it's structured. And I think it's a smart choice. It kind of helps people get, their timings right, because the game does jump around a decent amount. You mentioned a time jump. I think the time jump in the game is actually much more than the time jump in the show. I think Ellie was substantially older in the first game than Bella Ramsey was. So the time jump isn't as drastic. But yeah, there is a time jump. Other things, Isabel Merced plays Dina, and she was awesome in Alien Romulus. So I expect her to be awesome in this.
Yep.
It was good to see Gabriel Luna as Tommy. We got a few brief moments of this other faction called the Seraphites, which they take place in, and that's from the game. They take place in mostly the second half of the game. So that's another thing from sort of the second half of the game that's in the first half of the trailer. And of course, the big reveal of Caitlin Dever as Abby, who I love Caitlin Dever as an actress.
Yeah, she's great.
How she's, this role is so substantial. I don't want to say too much about the role, but she's a major character in this game. And the way that casting works will define the entire second season.
Really?
If it doesn't work, it won't work. If it does work, it will work.
Interesting. Who is the other person that everyone fan cast in that role?
Oh, I don't know her name, but yeah, there's a lookalike actress who
Okay.
everyone fan casted.
Yeah,
But
because
it's
a
kind
lot
of
of people
funny.
said Kelly Spaney for Ellie,
Yes.
right? And then there was someone else for Abby.
Yeah. But what's interesting is a lot of people actually said Caitlin Dever for Ellie originally, way
Oh,
back
really?
when they were casting this
Huh.
show. So it's actually interesting because there is sort of a duality to Ellie and Abby in the game. It's
Interesting.
probably the focal point of the game is that duality. And so it's interesting that they casted somebody who was like a lot of people wanted to play Ellie to begin
Mhm.
with.
Yeah. Uh, I love the casting of Caitlin Dever there. I think the first thing I saw her in was Booksmart way back,
Yeah, same.
5, 6 years
Yeah,
ago or something like
she's
that.
awesome.
And then she was in a movie that was on Hulu last year called No One Can Save You.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's an alien invasion movie, and she basically carries the whole film. Like
Hmm.
she's in almost every single scene, and there's barely anybody else in it. And man, she's just awesome. I can't wait to
Yep.
see what she brings to the table in this one. And powerhouse cast, man.
Yeah.
That it's nothing to nothing to turn your nose down at for sure.
Yeah, and there was a quote from Neil Druckmann a couple of days ago that said something along the lines of, "There's a few things in, there's a few sequences in the season that he thinks fans will really rave about because it wasn't in the game, but it's really expanding upon the lore
Mhm.
and everything." I think Isaac might be part of that. He's not in the game that much, but he's a
Okay.
substantial character. There's another character called Lev, and I'm not going to tell you very much about that character.
Okay.
Um, but that could be another route that they go down is a backstory for that character.
Okay.
Um,
I
but
very much like the way they did backstory in the first season.
mhm,
Um, when they did the third episode where Nick Offerman had
yeah,
he won an Emmy for that, I think,
yeah, he did.
right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. Guest appearance or something like that.
that took that little chunk of the game and built upon it
Hmm.
and made it really special. And then they did the same thing, and I think it was the seventh or eighth episode of the season, um, with the flashback when they're in the mall
So
together.
that mall was actually in the game. That was the DLC of the game and played out almost exactly like the DLC.
It,
So
it was done
that
great.
was, yeah, no, it was done awesome. I just my differentiation there is the Bill and Frank thing was not in the game at all
Right,
in,
right.
in terms of that backstory, but the other one was. But I do expect, yeah, more backstory, more time to tell this story, and I'm interested to see where they go with it. But at the same time, I think what a lot of people liked in the first game is that, or the first season, I keep saying game, but in the first season is that they also replicated the game almost exactly in
Yeah,
a lot of different
a lot
places.
of
Like
stuff that's
there's
like
a
shot for
lot of,
shot.
yeah,
Yeah.
shot for shot, dialogue for dialogue, exactly the same as the first game. And there's a couple of shots in the trailer for the second season that are identical to how the game plays out.
Is one of them the mailbox
I
in
don't
front
remember
of
the
the
mailbox.
Miller
It
house?
might be
Okay,
the
because
one
that
that I
the way they
noticed.
lingered on that, it felt like they were like calling back to the game or something. So
The one that I noticed was all of there's like a chain link fence and all the infected
yeah,
are ramming into the fence. That's straight out of the game
okay.
in one of the earlier chapters of it.
That shot looked
So
incredible, by the way.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna look
With
great.
them crawling underneath the chain link
Yeah,
fences, oh, dude.
the shot, the wide angle shot, where I guess the guy's looking through the binoculars, that was
Yeah,
not in the game. At least not that I remember.
okay.
That looks
Like
like
with all the
a
people running across the snow. That
Yeah,
yeah.
it's infected there.
Oh, are they infected?
It's a
Okay.
swarm of infected, and I think that's going to be like a little like moment is those guys are in the watchtower just chilling like the Titanic, right?
Mhm.
It's like, look out! Oh my god, like that
Well,
type of thing.
does that kind of address? Because one of the things that I didn't agree with that some
Oh, in the
people
first,
complained about in
yeah,
the first season
first
was that
season.
there weren't enough clickers, there weren't enough
Yep,
infected, and this trailer seems to address that a little
it
bit.
shows a couple. Yeah,
There's a good deal of action there.
yep,
Um, Hopefully they don't lean too far into that because I think the character drama is what made that first season as good as it is. But
yeah.
seems
It's a
like a
balance.
little bit of a hey, we heard you.
Hmm.
We're gonna have some more stuff in here.
It's a balance because for me, I'm not a big zombie guy at all. And what I love about The Last of Us is the characters and those dynamics, and the zombies kind of, it's just the place setting. And I feel like season 1, they approached it that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they realized there's a lot of people that played this game because of the zombies, and they love that aspect of it. And maybe they're like, okay, we need to pull back on the reins a little bit and give the people what they want a little bit more.
I'm sure they got a little bit more money this go around.
That's also true. It was such a big hit. Like, they're going to get more budget.
I mean, judging by some of the shots in that trailer, they definitely got a bigger budget. Because it just looks like movie quality.
Yeah.
Just insane production values.
I'm not going to say it, but there's some big moments in this game, and I'm really, really interested to see how they approach them.
Yeah. Do you think that most of those big moments will happen in this season, or will some of that have to wait for a third season?
There are 2 big moments that I think are the first episode and the last episode of this season. That's the way I would structure it. Okay. There's a very natural stopping point for how the game's structure works that I think will be the end of season 2. But there's also a pretty, substantial cliffhanger in that moment that leads into the second half of the narrative.
Okay.
And so I think that that's where we're going. I think there's another big moment early in the game that I think they might do in episode 1 as the ending of the first.
The big hook.
The big hook to keep people watching. Yeah. I think that's going to be episode 1. Got to do it. And I don't want to say too much, but if you have not played the game, either play the game before it or not. I don't know the recommendation. I love the game. I don't think it's going to diminish my enjoyment of the show because I've played the second game, because I had such a good experience playing the game that, this is just a bonus for me. It's like I get to experience it twice, right? But I know a lot of people that watched the first season and then they went back and played the game, and that's a perfectly acceptable way of doing it too.
So, aside from the game aspect of it, we got to talk about some of these directors.
Oh, I haven't seen the list.
So, Neil Druckmann.
Was that announced today?
No, this is all stuff from time. I'm on Wikipedia, because they're never wrong. They're always right.
Because Mylod is involved, right?
Mark Mylod is involved.
Okay.
Which he directed and was in charge of a lot of the episodes of Succession.
Yeah.
Kate Herron, who directed the entire first season of Loki, is
on
here.
Yeah.
Neil Druckmann is back. Peter Hoare is back. And it looks like Craig Mazin also did some directing too.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some... Oh, and there's also another gentleman on here, Stephen Williams, who directed on Damon Lindelof's Watchmen show back in 2019.
Nice.
So that's very exciting too for me, because this show, great characters, cool story, all that. The directors, they bring the stuff to life. Mm-hmm. And when you've got people with that level of talent involved, I mean, you and I talk about it all the time with this Harry Potter thing that HBO is trying to do. You're like, but Mark Mylod's involved.
Yeah, so I'm not going to fade Mark Mylod. Right? Yeah, I will never fade him.
Yeah. So I'm pumped, man. I think it's going to be awesome. I think they said it's only going to be like 7 episodes or something.
That sounds about right.
But that makes sense, because if they're going to split
the
second game into 2 seasons, it shouldn't have to be a full 9 episodes or 10 or whatever like it was last year. So
there's a lot of, I don't want to call it filler in the game, but the game is very long, but there are also a lot of like action set pieces and big set pieces that take a long time to play through, that from a narrative perspective are not really furthering the plot. So I can see it not actually being that much longer of a narrative than the first game, but there's just a lot more set pieces. But
those action things end up being like 6 minutes long on the show or something.
And there's so many moments in that game where like you're almost at a destination and then like something happens. It's like, oh, we'll have to go the long way. And then you go the long way for like 3 hours and then you end up where you were supposed to go. It's like, come on, man.
You're going to get your $70 worth, damn it.
But that, I think structurally, I don't want to, again, spoil too much, especially if people have not played the game and they want to. but the way that the game is structured is very bold, and I don't think that they'll do that in the show. But also, like, the way that it's structured would lend itself to, when you restructured it, it actually makes it shorter.
Okay.
And that's, all I can really touch on.
We
will talk about all the spoilers when we get there.
Yes.
But because, a lot of people haven't played the game, and you certainly haven't, I don't want to talk too much about it.
Yeah. I'm on the fence, man. I bought it and it's on my PlayStation.
I keep telling you.
When I bought it, it was like a couple months into COVID.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is way too depressing. I can't.
Oh, yeah. I remember playing that game, and just like, when the credits roll, you're just like, damn, like, just, I
will say, though, it's an exciting time for people who like video games when it comes to adaptations. Because like, whether it's this or Fallout, or even the Super Mario Brothers movie and the Sonic movies have done well. Like, video game people for a very long time, video game adaptations were bad. And it was like, nobody wants to touch them with a 10-foot pole. But we're at a point now where this stuff can be taken seriously. And obviously the output, Last of Us won a bunch of Emmys. Fallout was nominated for a whole bunch. Like, it can be done.
It's a little bit of a cheat code, because the studios realize that they ran out of franchises to nostalgia bait people with. And then they're like, wait a minute, there's all of these games that people have nostalgia for over the years. And like, Mario being a movie, like animated movie, it seemed like such an easy win.
Easy. What a layup.
And I don't even think that the movie was that great. Like, it was very basic and fine, but that's all it needed to be, right?
Yeah.
You have to
kids will go absolutely nuts for it.
Yeah, it just and something like this, which it's such a narrative driven game, it just lended itself so well to TV. And I think what's great about it is it is kind of like how I mentioned with Game of Thrones, where it's just an adaptation of a different medium. You're not adapting a book, you're adapting a video game. And a lot of people have not played that video game because they're not gamers, right? There's a lot of people that don't read books because they're not readers, and they watch the show or the movie. And this is the same concept. And I think that there's going to be a lot more. I mean, some more of them have been announced. There's been some unsuccessful ones. I mean, they just canceled the Halo show.
Oh, did they?
I think they finally canceled it. Or Paramount is not doing it, and they're trying to find a new streamer or something like that. But I think that the way that they approached this was very smart, in that they are faithfully adapting the game, very, like we said, shot for shot, but then they're expanding upon it using the medium. And I think where Halo kind of lost it was it kept some plot points from the game, but a lot of it was its own thing. Like, it tried to tell a completely different story and change up a lot of the stuff. And so a lot of the core audience of the people who have played the game, they watch the show and they're like, this is not the game. And I think that's the tough part, right? You want to make something your own, but at the same time, you kind of have to, it's like adapting a book, right? You have to display what's on the page at some point, right?
But at the same time, you got to blaze your own trail. It's a very tricky balancing act.
And I feel like this show has balanced it very well. Something like the Bill and Frank episode is something completely new that was not in the game at all. And you can totally do that, and people will embrace it. Or if they're not,
it absolutely ruled.
It's an awesome
episode.
Was
so good. It's so full of emotion. My God. I don't even know if I can watch it again, because it's just one of those things that tears your heart out,
I remember, like, my wife thinks I'm crazy, because I remember watching the first episode of season 1 where Sarah dies, and I was bawling, and she's like, what is wrong with you? It's not that sad.
I'm like, 4 times.
I have, but that was the thing. It was like they recreated it so well, and it hit me in that, like, nostalgic, emotional core, that I've seen this moment. Like, I was very sad when that moment happened in the game, and it was such a, like, holy shit opening to a game, and I had never played anything like that before that really hit you dramatically right away. And then to see it on screen with real actors and it done so well, it was like, man, this is like playing the game for the first time 15 years ago. And
it's so crucial to the narrative of that first season. Like, it sets up the lone wolf and cub thing perfectly. And that's such an important piece of where they go over those 9 episodes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that moment is what causes the finale, right?
Yep.
You think that he has fixed it, right? And then he's not fixed it.
He did not fix it.
That's his dramatic fault, right? He will never get over that, and he will never let it happen again.
Yep. So to wrap this one up, Shane, what is one video game that you would love to see given an adaptation that hasn't received one yet?
BioShock, 100%.
Okay.
Easily. And they are working on it at Netflix, I guess, but I don't have very high hopes for it, and I hope it kind of falls through and somebody else does it.
Netflix.
But like a full-on BioShock game or movie or show would be amazing. Although I will say that's one where I don't think you could actually do the narrative from the game, because that narrative is almost 100% dependent on it being a video game. If it is not a video game, that narrative I don't think works. There's a hook in that game that like it's almost a meta on playing a video game. And so if you don't have that, I don't know if it'll work. But the world building and the environment in that game is probably the best that I've ever seen.
Okay.
Cool, how about you?
Madden? No.
Well, there's a game on tonight. I think the Cowboys.
Yeah, my Giants play the Cowboys tonight, and that's always a complete circus. But no, I think I would love to see the God of War games put on screen, just because the gameplay of those is pretty linear. There's not like a lot of side quests. It kind of like points you in one direction and says, go be the God of War, right? Go do your thing. But what propels those games is the narrative and the story with the characters. So I think that would probably translate pretty well to I don't know if they would do it as a movie or a TV show though, because that one is every character in that story would have some sort of visual effect placed upon them. So it's like, how do you
big budget?
How do you even figure that out? But I think that will be cool. I would say Mortal Kombat, but they've tried that like several times already.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Knights of the Old Republic. That's what I thought your answer would be.
Oh man, I mean, I would love it if they did that. It would be cool. But Star Wars is a dead franchise at this point. And we're never talking.
I feel like if they did Knights of the Old Republic, they would do the thing that Halo did, that pissed everybody off, and they would like make a completely different story in the same time period, and everyone's like, no, I want the game story. I bet you that's what would happen.
Everyone would be on YouTube making thumbnails with Kathleen Kennedy with red eyes and lasers and shit. And the cycle repeats itself over and over and over again. Internet bad. Cool. Well, that's going to wrap things up. We talked for almost a half hour about a 2-minute long teaser trailer. So
a lot to talk about.
Very excited for The Last of Us Season 2. If you are excited for it, drop a comment below and let us know. Let us know if you've played the games, if you played one, if you played both, if you played none. Thoughts on the first season, thoughts on the trailer. We'd love to hear everything from you guys. We're going to be reviewing some movies soon. We're going to actually watch movies, I think.
At some point, it'll happen.
We're going to watch.
I do have movie tickets tomorrow night to the Wild Robot.
You're seeing Wild Robot?
Yeah.
Megalopolis comes out.
I'm going to try and see that too.
Coppola. I'm going to try to see that. The George Clooney Brad Pitt thing, Wolves, is on Apple TV, and that's like one room over on the couch, so I might check that out. So we shall have some more videos coming soon. Go ahead and like this one if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that bell for notifications, and we will see you guys in the next video.